I'm thrilled to talk to my friend here, Gal. Zoomin was my first investment as a partner, which makes this conversation with you, Gal, even more special for me. Since our first investment in 2018, we've watched Zoomin reshape how enterprises turn product content, used to be a boring thing, into a strategic asset. But before we get started, I have to ask, how does it feel to hit a milestone, getting acquired by Salesforce after all these years?
These are very, very special few months since the acquisition. We actually already started joining Salesforce. I actually came last night, came back from the first kickoff, the annual kickoff of Salesforce, which is unbelievable. And it's kind of a few months where you feel on the cloud, kind of floating on the cloud a little bit, trying to figure out what's happening here. A very, very special time for us and for me personally.
You sleep better now?
I actually sleep a lot better now.
Happy for you. Very well described.
Thank you for all the warm words. I think that you're a partner at the time that you invested and took the risk in the company, and it's like a co-founder. It's even more than a co-founder. For me, it was very symbolic that you were the first one to invest, and the final negotiation with Salesforce, we did from the Bessemer offices. And for me, it was critical that because you set the bar. You set the bar for the board culture, and you brought everything that I just mentioned to the table. You were the anchor investment in the company. You're the first one to invest. You're the first one. You took the biggest risk.
So let's rewind and go back to the start, for the original story, how Zoom was launched. Tell us a bit about the early days and how you started.
We built a knowledge orchestration platform that does basically two things. One, and it knows how to bring all the enterprise proprietary data, mostly unstructured data, into one place, which is all the knowledge articles and the manuals and the guides and the Confluence and the SharePoint, the Google Drives, of all that stuff that is different systems, different formats, different structures, bring it all into one place, harmonize it, make it one, and then through an API, bring it somewhere. So our forte is in integrating all this, harmonizing it, making it one, and sending it to those different engines. Proprietary data is critical for the success of AI engines. And without this, AI agents in the enterprise are just not useful. So the LLM can be as smart as it is, but without the fuel to run this engine, this engine will just go nowhere.
Right.
I would say we're not a typical company. We're three very different founders. Each one came from a very different place. And we decided to join forces and to build a company together, because we felt we identified an area that can be very interesting. It wasn't a typical, let's start and raise money. We said before we go out there to the market, let's see if there is something real here. So we basically decided to bootstrap. And that's what we did till we had something like 20 or 30 customers, very big companies. In the first 2 years or so of bootstrapping, we had companies like ServiceNow and McAfee and Dell EMC, big companies. And only then we went out to go where I would say was the typical journey and start raising money. So on one end, we had great assets that I think most companies at that stage don't have. But on the other end, and you remember this, we look awful. We weren't one of those sexy companies that everything looks great.
Why did you decide to raise money?
Because we felt like we have good assets. We were up to something that's very big, and it's time to go bigger. There is a lot of great things about bootstrapping, but in my opinion, you can only go that far. Bootstrapping, you're very slow. You're very limited in your cash ability in hiring great talent. It was clear that if you want to go bigger, and at a certain point we realized there is something big here, we have to go big. The issue that we had is that I would say the typical partner, the typical fund, they look for the shiny companies. And while I think we're very shiny in terms of the asset that we had, we did not look that way. And then we met you. And I think that what was special about you is that you're able to go deeper and see what's the core of what we have here. And that was very special for us. I think it was the most important milestone in our company, that's meeting with you.
Thank you. So let's talk a bit about that, because I remember, obviously it was not shiny. It was frankly a debatable investment inside Bessemer. It was growing, but it wasn't like a high-flying company. And it was very difficult to understand exactly what you did. The website looked horrible. There was no go-to-market. But one thing that stood out like very clear, except for the three of you that I just fell in love, was that kind of customer obsession. Like when I spoke with the customers, the reference customers that you gave me, they all mentioned that you're not a vendor, you're a partner. So tell us more about that. What does customer obsession mean for Zoomin? What did it mean in the early days? How do you get to this position when you're called a partner and not a vendor?
It's a good question. I think it has to do with the personality of us as founders, and also the circumstances of us being bootstrapping. It all starts and ends with the customers. We believe from day one that they know better than us where we need to go. and we just need to listen to them. And also keep in mind, when you bootstrap, their customers are your oxygen. From day one, we basically decided to put them in the front. They were our salespeople. They were speaking about us in conferences. They were selling our story. And we made sure they're happy, and we made them heroes. It created this kind of a win-win relationship where we put them out there. They speak about what they do. They speak about the value. They look great in their companies, and they know that we're there for them. Whatever they need, whatever, we're there for them. A lot of our product features, capabilities were from demand that came from our customers. By the way, a lot of them came and started working for us over the years.
That was another thing I remember very uniquely, that the few points that were like, there was already a few customers that kind of decided they want to leave their job and come work for you because they love you guys so much, was also something that you don't see very often. That's very special to see. Many people talk about customer obsession, was very clear that you just had it there. Many founders struggle between kind of balance between scaling fast and then staying focused. There's always many different things that you want to do, but you want to stay focused, you want to scale too. How do you approach this tension over the years? And for you, it was even more, it was more visible from the outside because you started bootstrapped. And I remember in the first year after investing, like you still didn't burn the money that you raised. You were still like moving very slow, like very hesitantly, taking every dollar that comes in, comes out. And I was like urging to spend more. Yeah, and then in 2021, we raised a large growth round, like many other companies, suddenly became much less efficient, hired many people. How do you balance this tension and what is the right way?
Yeah, it's a good question. You mentioned the 2021 fundraising, which was great. It was led by General Atlantic. Eventually, I think that you as a CEO, me as a CEO, you know best where your company is, and you have to control the timing of when do you put more foot on the gas and when not. One of the things that happened in 2021, not just to us, but to a lot of companies, is that you got a lot of money and you're almost told now you're in growth. Okay. But we weren't in growth. We weren't in growth stage at the time. There is something about unit economics, not just a number. Okay. Quota attainment, for example. If you don't have great quota, you're not in growth. Okay. If you don't have that level of predictability and consistency, you're not in growth. But 2021 was a year where you were expected to be in growth, even if you're not there. And we also fell into this trap. We used the money and we spent a lot of this money when we shouldn't have. So luckily for us, we realized this quickly and fixed it. But that could have killed the company. I think we built this DNA of a very resilient and business-focused company during the bootstrap era. I look at money very much like steroids. If you take too much of it, you can die. And I really liked the times in the company where we didn't have a lot, okay? It's much easier to communicate focus to the team. It's much easier to run the company. Everything is much easier when you don't have a lot of it because it makes your life a lot easier. You're a lot sharper. You're a lot more focused.
Was there a moment where you felt like the company might not make it?
There wasn't a moment like this. Never. You're my partner for almost the entire time of the company. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all, but we always believe, and we always believe there is something. And by the way, it's not always logical, this belief, but I guess that's who you are as a CEO and as a founder. You have to believe, that's why you are in this role. And we always believe. To me, personally, nothing came easy, not just in Zoomin, but in life. It's always about grinding and getting there. I'm not trying to brag here. It's not, but we never had any fear. Never. You probably remember we used a lot of sports analogies in the company. One of them was with Ayrton Senna, the Formula One champion, who I think he had a great quote saying, it's very hard to overtake 15 cars in a sunny day, but you can do it when it's raining. And there are a lot of rainy days when you build a company. And we felt like those rainy days and where we shined. That's where we made our biggest leaps. And that's where we felt it's almost like we had, okay, bring it on. That's where we are at our best. This resiliency maybe probably starts from us as founders, but it was also built and became stronger during this period. And I feel like eventually there is a lot of ups and downs, and it's hard. And our goal, and I think you were pushing for this a lot, is to stay relevant, to be in the game. Okay, to be in the game and be ready for the opportunity when it comes, because you don't really know when it's going to come. So we got a lot of punches, but I think that when we got the opportunity, we were ready to attack.
You're ready. You were definitely ready when the opportunity came. As you're getting these punches, how do you keep motivating your employees? How do you engage the board? One of the things that was very clear here is a board that you were always on top. We're great. Like all these times, like you always knew we can trust you and you're on top and you'll take care of the company and the ship is under great leadership. But like, what do you do? How do you stay calm?
So after you're not very calm, you don't wake up in the morning for the 10 great things that happened last night. I can talk about how I dealt with the board, but I'm sure there's different ways of dealing with the board and the company. It was full transparency. Okay. We never tried to sell anything and we never tried to assume that we know everything. So the approach with the board was always, this is what's happening. These are the issues that I have. Sometimes it seemed a little bit pessimistic because it was all the problems. So once you talk about everything in a very open way, in a very vulnerable way, at least they see that, okay, I don't know if he's going to solve it, but
Yeah, there's no surprise.
at least he's aware. And second, which I think this is the important trick, you make them part of your problem. Once you share the problem with them, now they're part of it. And I think it adds to the trust, but it also adds to their willingness to help you because you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable. That created a lot of engagement with the board. And with the company, in addition to the transparency, after the board meeting, I presented the entire presentation to the company, every board meeting. They knew everything.
That'd be good, like
Everything was communicated to them. But there is always stuff to deal with. It's not always the sexy stuff, but there's also interesting goals to communicate to the company. So sometimes it's 100% growth, but sometimes it's about, if you recall, in 2022, our goal was to fully control our destiny and not be dependent on any third-party funding, or that was the goal. So I don't know, maybe it's not as sexy as 100% growth, but that's a goal. And that's all we spoke about. And when we got there, everyone was very excited about fully controlling our destiny. And every time there is a goal that you can communicate to the company and to the team and get their buy-in for this. And I think it all starts with trust and transparency.
Many of our entrepreneurs or in the companies often try to partner with kind of a larger incumbent. And frankly, it's very rarely successful. When you first told me about you starting to work with Salesforce and that partnership, I was pretty skeptical at that too. Okay, spend your time there. Don't expect anything to happen. What do you think like this partnership was so successful?
I think you're right to be very skeptic. And after this successful acquisition, it's very risky. Those partnerships are very risky and the chances of them going well are very low. The partnership defocus the company. They consume tons of time, tons of management focus. And I think that if they're not managed properly, they can kill the company. And throughout the years, I was the one always turning down all the opportunities we had because of that understanding.
But why did you do it? Because it was like magical to see from the outside.
So overall, for us with Salesforce, it did not happen overnight. After your first investment in the company, we decided to add Salesforce and invest as an investor to the company. And not because we had anything with them, but when we looked at what we do with our ecosystem, we thought that can potentially boost our business. So we added them as an investor, and then over the years, we added them as a customer. And then we started some kind of a partnership with them where it's Zoomin inside Salesforce. And then when AI came, everything changed. When AI came, everything changed in terms of Salesforce mostly. And I explained this before. They had this great engine called Einstein. They needed fuel. The fuel was Zoomin. We decided to partner.
But how do you make them to realize it? You're this small company. You're approaching Salesforce. Yes, you have some relationship with them. That this thing is a big opportunity for them and make them move at the kind of the same pace that you're required to move as a small.
Yeah. So there were in two ways. One is the product organization realized that the technology can be embedded relatively quickly. And second, there was clear traction from customers. We had hundreds, thousands of customers asking for what we call unified knowledge, which is Zoomin inside the Salesforce. So the customer demanded, but we are very good in communicating this. Okay, we built like monthly reports and we communicated it to the executives, and they all were aware that there is big traction here with customers. And Salesforce, just like I said about us as a customer-driven company, that's all. It's a revenue-driven company. They care about revenue, and customer want this. It means they can sell more Einstein and more AI. They're in it. Okay, and that traction was clear, and that's when you get a lot more attention from everyone. We allocated a very, very lean team, a very small team that focused on the partnership with Salesforce and building this unified knowledge approach that I mentioned before. 90% of the company did not deal with it at all. Okay. I was terrified that it's going to kill the company and that's going to defocus the company because we didn't have anything. And even when you had something, they can unplug it in a second, and then you're left with nothing. But on the other end, we're never crossing the point of no return, that if this is not going well, the company is still alive and working. And how do you mitigate all this? So you're focusing, and we focus a very small team on this that changed over time. Initially, it was mostly engineered and product. And then We replaced them with some go-to-market and finance and operations, but always a very lean and versatile team. And the rest of the company did not touch it at all, including executives who were very upset that they're not part of this new shiny toy. But I told them, guys, I need you to deal with the core business of the company. That partnership with Salesforce at the time did not generate anything. It was a promise. So I think that the success is a lot about that lean squad that did it, but moreover, the rest of the company. We just kept focusing on what they're supposed to do and keeping the company growing and alive at that time. It's very, very risky, very risky. And those partnerships, that traction and that win is a critical aspect that led to this acquisition eventually. But there's two other important aspects that I think are critical.
What are they?
One, you need to have a business stakeholder that is right now measured on that stuff right now. That's what they care about because I see now how it works. They have annual planning, they have their goals. And if you're helping them meet their goal, and second, at least in the world of Salesforce, is very culture driven company. They care about culture a lot and they need to like you. And they need to like you as personally, they need to like your company. They need to think that the two cultures of the companies can become one. Salesforce would not buy a company if they don't like the people. The culture is very important. So creating that win in terms of technology and customer attraction is critical, but the timing has to be great with a business stakeholder who is willing to sponsor this and the cultural fit. And I think that eventually in our case, that's what led to this acquisition, but also to a very strong integration.
This is something that many people often miss. They think about Salesforce, Microsoft, Google as large companies, large buildings, but in these buildings, there are people, and these people are the people who are deciding. So it doesn't matter whether it's a large company it is, like you want to make sure that you have trust and you build relationship and you build like a real kind of relationship with these executives and the people who are going to be sponsoring, working with you, because many of these deals, it's not just about tactical revenue and numbers, which sometimes people just think about like it's very cold, but like it is relationship driven. They really want to work with you. Like that's a major part of the acquisition and it helps make you things go through. And you've done an incredible job kind of both proving the ROI, the business case, but not neglecting and even more making sure that you create the relationship across all the levels.
Eventually you do business with people, not with companies.
Obviously, AI has forever changed the technology landscape. There's no doubt about it. And Zoomin was started pre-AI, but very successfully positioned itself as the forefront of AI-driven knowledge orchestration. When did you first realize that this wave is such a big thing and that you need to align to it? And what do you do?
We were not an AI company. Okay, we were not an AI company for the first few years of the company, of our existence. It was late February 2023, one of my VPs from Israel called me and I asked him something and he said, let me check with my friend. And I see him taking his head down. And I said, who's your friend? What are you doing here? And he said, ChatGPT. Okay, that's the first time I heard about this. Okay. That was a Thursday. I looked into this and we're in the business of delivering content. It's like ChatGPT, it's like it's shaking the tree aggressively. And I immediately understood that this is either killing the company or there is an opportunity or there is nothing in between here for us. And immediately we decided to be the first one with some kind of an AI application on top of what we do. And we went to market very quickly. We didn't know exactly how we're going to play in the AI market. And then we realized that it seems like it's a very big opportunity for us because what we saw is that very quickly it became very easy to build AI application and conversational AI. All are using the same AI models and everything. But what separates the winners from those who are not winning is, like any other engine, is the fuel, and the fuel is data. And inside data, unstructured data, which is what we dealt with, was a big factor. If you think about an enterprise, 80% of their data is unstructured. And so companies like Microsoft, ServiceNow, Salesforce, a lot of those companies who are building AI applications, they realize we don't have the fuel. And then we realize that we play the role of that fuel into those AI engines. Everything I'm telling you is probably happened over a period of 6 months or less, even very quickly. And we repositioned what we did from doing end-to-end, from infrastructure to also providing interface and customer-facing applications, to focusing on the infrastructure piece and bringing data into AI applications. And we were talking before about being ready to attack. That time we were ready. We had money, we had the right people, and we were ready to attack. And we took quick decisions on this. We did not hesitate for too long, and we were very aggressive on this. But that was very new, and that was a pivot that an opportunity we realized and the people that we decided to do, but then the execution was also great. And
Impressive to see like how you invented Zoomin. We would take all this content, data, unstructured data, index it, manage it, and then allow the customers to share it with their customers. And then you realize, wait, we have this ingestion engine. We know how to deal with all the content, with all these unstructured data. All these companies, Salesforce, Microsoft, as you mentioned, they have these AI agents, but they don't have the content and the data there. If we plug this together, it works really well, and you completely reposition the company in just a very quick way, and the rest is history. Where do you see AI transforming enterprise software in the next 5 years?
so for me, it's all about agents right now. The world is going to the agent era now. But seriously, I think that what's happening in the world of AI is that companies like Salesforce and Microsoft and everyone, okay, we're competing against each other on technology, and now we're embedded in the labor market. And then there's human agents and technology agents and AI agents, which are somehow going to need to collaborate and work together. I don't remember a change like this in the market ever, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility, in my opinion. When you start dealing with people and who is going to be able to adopt to this new world and who is not going to be able to, it's like it's a revolution and what's happening. And every enterprise has to do something about this. And every CEO is thinking about, what am I doing about this?
It's like business is always a race, and now like someone hit up the speed to be double what it was before, and if you don't embrace that change, you're going to be off the treadmill very quickly. So, guys, if you were sitting now with an early stage founder, what advice do you give them about navigating tough times and navigating to succeed?
Humility is key. And you have to listen. It's critical for business because no one really knows, and you need to put no ego into this. Tough times are opportunities. You need to make sure that for those tough times you have the right people with you, but you need to embrace those tougher moments and think about, how am I turning them and how am I making my leap. And for me, and you spoke about before, I think that whenever I didn't know what to do, I went back to customers. Every time in COVID, in the financial crisis, I just changed my calendar, and the whole thing was meeting with customers to see what's happening with them. If they're okay, if they see the value, you're going to be okay as well.
If you could send a voice memo to your younger version starting Zoom in the early days, what would you have said?
It's okay to not have answers. As people who are making decisions all life and are problem solvers, you always want to have the answers. But in this journey, you almost by definition don't have the answers. And it's okay to not have the answers, not have the answer in front of your customers, in front of your employees, in front of your board members. It's one of the strengths that you build over time, to be able to live with the questions and not feel bad with it. It's part of the mental toughness and resiliency and confidence that questions are okay, and don't rush into the answers.
Make a decision with uncertainty. You'll never have the right answer or the full answer. So one last question, favorite one that we like to ask your customer. When you look back at your career as a founder, what do you wish you knew?
I think it's on one, it's very nice to not know a lot of things. Had I known this, I'm not sure I would start another company now. It's crazy. But if I look back, and we've done tons of mistakes, but we try to course correct over time. The two more practical mistakes, one is the ability, you need to build the platform for scale very early, and it's much harder to fix it later. And it's almost impossible to fix it at a certain point later on. And the second is marketing. It's many entrepreneurs tend to be either in sales or in product, but the marketing is key. I see it now in Salesforce, of course. It's very hard to succeed without telling a story to the world. Employees want to hear the story. Customers want to see it. The market wants to hear the story. And it's very hard to promote and to build your own category without very strong marketing. I underestimated the importance of it, and it made it more difficult for us.
Always tell a story or have a story. This was an amazing reflection of the Zoomin's journey. Congratulations for the great milestone for you and the team. This was an incredible ride for me. I've learned a lot from you, from the other founders, your dedication, your hard work, your spirit, how you managed the company, how you were always there, steering the ship in the right direction. And then when you, as you said, when you found that opportunity where you were all in. Thanks for being just such a great partner along the years, and hope you just get a better sleep now at Salesforce.
Thank you for all the warm words. I think that you're a partner at the time that you invested and took the risk in the company, and it's like a co-founder. It's even more than a co-founder, and that's how I feel about you personally. And that belief that you showed us so early stage, it was very critical for us. That belief was critical for me. It was critical for all of our employees. It was critical for the market. And you guys are taking decisions that have a big impact on companies. And that decision was critical in getting us to this point. So thank you for this and for being who you are.